Welcome into a new week of Beyond the Arc here on High School Cube News. Brian Chimino back with Michael O'Brien of the Chicago Sun-Times. Top story, the biggest game of last week, easily two top 10 teams. We're talking about Hinsdale Central and St. Joe's. Everybody looking at the battle of the big men, Rafferty versus Rakasevich. We did not get that because Rafferty hurt his hand earlier in the week. He was out, so obviously St. Joe's wins. No. Hinsdale Central comes out on top behind George Kiernan, stepping up for the Red Devils, 30 points in that one, as Hinsdale Central sends St. Joe's down the Super 25 all the way to number 9.
It's like we're back where we started with St. Joseph's. I mean, Nick Rakasevich had some issues, didn't play a lot in the game. Matt Rafferty didn't play for Hinsdale Central, so I wasn't there. I was at Glenbard East watching some other games, so I know even less what to take from this one. I mean, Hinsdale Central is solid. Jordan Bradshaw is really good. He's a guard. George Kiernan, wow, didn't see this coming. I mean, he's had some nice flashes this year, but to put together a big game on a big stage like that is really great for him. He's an Army recruit, actually. He's going to be a D1 player. So Hinsdale Central, you know, the sky is the limit. And St. Joseph's, you know, we just don't know. They could win Class 3A. It feels like they could lose in the regionals, too. I mean, Coach Pingatore is going to have his work cut out for him to just kind of get that group together.
A big one in the Southwest Suburban Red as Lincoln Way West beat previously ranked Bradley Bourbonnais. John Marotta for Lincoln Way West, 27 points in the WID. Micah Bradford couldn't do it all for Bradley Bourbonnais as they were shorthanded in this one.
Yeah, this was another game where I show up and find out that a really good player is in play. And Zach Hollywood is, you know, the 6'7", 6'8" guy for Bradley Bourbonnais. He can be really effective at times. He's a really interesting player, especially going into next year. They're going to need him a lot. They needed him on Friday. He's supposed to be back next week. We'll see how that goes. Micah Bradford scored 30, played really well, but the story of this was Lincoln Way West. They've only got 9 guys. You know, this program has had 3 coaches in 6 years. Brian Flaherty is the coach now. He's the son of Mike Flaherty, the, you know, current Mount Carmel coach, legendary Thornridge guy. So they've got a good coach in place, but man, they played some fun basketball. They were running up and down the court, hitting shots right and left. They've got a sophomore, Marco Pettinato, and he's an interesting player. I guess he was a junior high legend, you know, really good in 7th and 8th grade because he was 6'1". He's still 6'1", but he can play. And Lincoln Way West is more than just, you know, a team of shooters. They can get up and down the court. It was a really fun game to watch. Lincoln Way West is for real. You know, they're not Super 25 yet, but they really just hammered a Bradley team that, you know, I expect a lot of, that just keeps letting us down in the big games, it seems, Bradley. They've got to get it together, even without Zach Hollywood. This should have been at least a close game, and it wasn't.
And for the first time this season on Beyond the Arc, we're going to talk MSL game as Conant knocked off Barrington. And this was your stereotypical MSL game, very low scoring, 48-45 your final. One of the top juniors in the state for Barrington, Rapolis Ivanauskas, really struggling in the loss.
You know, went out to this one to see Rapolis Ivanauskas from Barrington, to see what he had, thinking that Barrington, you know, they've been sort of a just below the Super 25 team, was going to win this one, but Conant was really impressive. You know, they came out and did what Conant does. They took care of the ball, they shot well, they played really good man defense. They've got an interesting point guard, Jimmy Sotos. He's a sophomore, and he really ran the show. His brother Danny can do some scoring, and Chris Dulce was also a really good player. He's a strong guy, and he can get to the basket a lot. So Conant has something. They've won 7 or 8 games in a row, so they are definitely a team to keep an eye on in the MSL. Barrington was another story. Unsigned senior Chris Lester played really well. He shot the ball, 6'4" kid, kind of athletic. I didn't really see much from Ivanauskas. I think I picked a really bad game for a kid who's supposed to be as good as him. Everything he did was kind of awkward. He didn't shoot real well. He missed a lot of shots. You know, he's active. He's really active and he's really tall. So you can see why a lot of recruiting analysts like him. And he's put up some huge games this year, scored 30, 40 points. This wasn't one of those. We're going to have to go out and check him out another time really to see what he's got.
And we had a big matchup between 2 sophomores. Evanston getting an upset win over number 10 Riverside Brookfield. No-Gel Eastern, huge for the Wildcats. Jalen Clanton for Riverside Brookfield also had a good game.
No-Gel Eastern was something. I mean, wow. It was amazing to see. You know, I'd seen the highlights of their game the night before against New Trier and thought he looked really powerful. And all those things I wasn't sure about with No-Gel Eastern, you know, about the athleticism, about just kind of his body. It always felt weird. He was always kind of hurt and didn't seem right. And he admitted after the game that this is as healthy as he's ever been. And boy, did he look it. He looked like the next superstar in the state. I mean, he was that good. I mean, forget even his ranking in the sophomore class. If he can play like that every night, he's maybe a top 5 player in the state right now. The sky's the limit for him. I was sort of shocked to hear after the game, he's only got 4 college scholarship offers right now. You know, there's some good ones, but I don't know what everybody's waiting on now. You better get in on this kid now because he's going to have 40 scholarship offers this time next year if he keeps playing like that.
And to wrap up the show, new to the Super 25, Whitney Young is back in at 25 after a big win over West Aurora. But at number 24 is Bolingbrook, as they got some good wins on their resume.
Yeah, Bolingbrook, a team that takes, a lot of heat from everybody. They've lost a lot of games the last few years. They shouldn't, but they knocked off Hillcrest. They knocked off HF. They got a nice win over Lockport. They're on a roll, and they're talented. This is a team with 3 or 4 D1 players. It's a team that could really go far in Class 4A, especially with the south suburbs not being loaded, or the southwest where they're going to come out of. So Bolingbrook is one to watch. Prentice Nixon can score. They got the big man Julian Torres. Broderick Thomas scored like 30 against Hillcrest. He's unsigned, a really good unsigned senior. There is so much talent there that Bolingbrook could be rising up the rankings for the next month of the season easily.
And that'll do it for this edition of Beyond the Arc here on High School Cube News. Every Tuesday, don't forget to download the newest edition of the No Shot Clock podcast, Michael O'Brien and Joe Henriksen. For Michael O'Brien, I'm Brian Chimino. We'll see you later in the week for a whole new edition of 5 Things to Watch here on High School Cube News.